Dr. Douglas, in your opinion, what are the most important physical requirements to make such a flight as this?
There are none that you can actually define. A man, in order to take this type of flight, must be in superb physical shape, in good condition, as an athlete must be.
Have you been surprised by the physical development of any of the astronauts since they were selected some 3 years ago?
No real surprises, except the fact that we took people who were already in good shape, well and healthy, and through their own desires to improve themselves have done so by working hard at it and developing a physical condition which is just absolutely superb.
Dr. Douglas, if you had to go out right now to find people to train for future space flights, would you have, in your opinion, more difficulty in finding them or less difficulty?
Oh, I think less difficulty. We picked these 7 men without really knowing what we were picking for. We just had to pick the best we could find. I think we'd still pick the best, but we might emphasize other qualities or better perhaps eliminate some of the tests that they had to go through in order to be selected for this project.
Well, hindsight's always better than foresight, but looking at it right now, the rigorous training all the astronauts have had to go through, do you feel any part of it could have been eliminated or cut down or changed in any way?
Not necessarily the training. I think the training would have to continue. It would be some of the selection tests that we went through. We took 2 weeks to select these people. I think we could cut it down to maybe a week in our next selection program.
Well, these men are not in what we might consider a training table routine where their food is prepared and selected and their daily routine is mapped out for them.
This was done with intention. We wanted these people to live as normal a life as possible. They already know the general rules of diet, which most well-fed, well-educated people in this country know. And they adhere to these very carefully in their own homes.
Well, the astronauts, of course, are using the honor system in their training requirements. Among the 7, have you had any problems with any of them, such as those who might have forgotten or had a lapse in their training program?
Not at all. They are all so highly motivated to do the job that they wouldn't dare. They couldn't if they wanted to.
Well, now, Dr. Douglas, getting to the flight at hand, what are the steps that you take just prior to launch?
Well, the man is brought into the crew quarters at Hangar S on Cape Canaveral several days in advance. We insist that he come in at least 3 days beforehand. And during that 3-day period, he's subjected to many types of examinations and procedures, not only to ensure he's in good health, but to collect baseline scientific data. On the morning of the flight, I assist in putting on his pressure suit. I put on his the biological sensors, which we use to radio his heartbeat, respiration, and body temperature back to the ground. I accompany him from the hangar in the transfer van over to the launch area. I assist in putting him in the capsule on top of the booster. And then my job transfers itself from immediate care of the man to the forward medical station, where I stand by in case there is some sort of an accident on the pad.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you do in case of an accident or trouble, Dr. Douglas?
We have 3 helicopters standing by, one of them being airborne. These helicopters contain each of the 2 standing by contain a physician and a skin diver. In the event there is an abort off the pad, as we say, and the capsule lands on the land, these helicopters proceed to the site of the landing of the spacecraft. It is There are other groups in land recovery vehicles. A large amphibious device called a LARC is also there, containing tools for cutting into the capsule, firefighting equipment, and the like.
What about the radiation hazard, Dr. Douglas, during a flight such as the one that is being made today?
We believe it to be minimal, in fact almost non-existent. We are well beneath the Van Allen belts, but we are taking such precautions as monitoring the voltage on transatlantic cables, which happens to fluctuate when there are large solar flares. We also have people watching the sun for us, and if there is a large solar flare which might give us difficulty, then we either don't launch, or if it's bad enough, we can call a man back.
If all goes well during today's flight, Colonel Glenn will land gently in his space capsule in the South Atlantic, some 1,000 miles away from our point here at Cape Canaveral. What do you do then, as far as your duties are concerned?
After the capsule is landed, I go down with a medical team to the primary recovery area at Grand Turk in the Bahama Islands. There we have set up a small hospital, a delightful little prefabricated building. We have a surgical team there ready to operate if necessary. We have specialists in internal medicine, in eye, ophthalmology. We have laboratory officers down there. We're equipped to do almost any kind of medical care that might be necessary. We're also equipped to do certain of our scientific studies, the obtaining of specimens, blood specimens and the like, the analyzing of these. We also take a group of engineering people down to interview the astronaut just as soon as possible to glean everything we can from him before some of the things might escape his memory over a period of time. We want to talk to him just as soon as possible, and we're able to do so within a matter of a few hours after he lands.
Well, Doctor, suppose Colonel Glenn doesn't land near the prearranged recovery area near Grand Turk Island. Are you prepared to set up medical facilities elsewhere?
We're set up with medical facilities around the world. They're not always as elaborate as those at Grand Turk, but we have a medical recovery plan which takes care of every contingency. Wherever the man might land, we know today where we would take him.
Dr. Douglas, looking ahead to the follow-up flights, which may be called a Super Mercury or Apollo or what have you, or that kind of a flight, do you see any peculiar difficulties, or do you think there will have any added requirements which you will have to look for in your team of astronauts?
I don't know of any real added requirements. There's we'll learn so very much from Mercury. This will enable us to select our people with some experience behind us. I don't think it'll be a great deal different. We don't know what weightlessness holds in store for us. We don't think that it's going to be any great problem. We're not concerned with isolation, with sensory deprivation, things of this nature, which have been brought out occasionally in the past, that a man in a month's flight around the moon or to Mars or some such thing would be, due to his isolation and boredom, he might have some peculiar psychological changes. We don't think these things will occur. The man won't be isolated. He'll have companions with him. He'll have radio contact with the Earth. I don't look for anything startling as far as the future, other than the technical and the engineering knowledge which we'll gain.
Yes, the selection was not viewed by the the public in its true light. A lot of people thought it was painful and very hard, and it was not. There was some hard work, that was the centrifuge, but the rest was simple, made simple by the fact that all of those tests were so much fun. They really were, and we learned a lot about our own capabilities. We learned a lot about the capabilities of the human body in general. We faced a lot of unknowns in those days that are no longer unknowns, but that made it even more interesting because outside of the fact that we were competing with the Soviet Union, which was the driving force in the earlier days, we were also satisfying a compelling curiosity about near-Earth space and about the human organism and the human intellect as well. Can we design a machine that will do this? And can we stand the ride? It's a fascinating time because mainly we were making so many unknowns known.
Right. Now, what were some of the most memorable tests that you had gone through, whether they were funny or difficult or challenging?
Well, a centrifuge is always fun, but hard work. We did all kinds of treadmill walking and running to exhaustion. We rode bicycles to exhaustion, but we disproved a lot of theory about human limits in endurance. The anechoic chamber was fun. That's a place where you are isolated, can't hear a thing, can't see a thing. You go in not knowing how long you'll be in there. Some people told you to expect being in this environment for 2 or 3 days. It turned out to be an hour or something. So that was fun. What else? They really are, there are so many fun experiences. We'd never get on to spaceflight if we went into all of those. But they were all fascinating experiments trying to find out if the human organism had some weak spot that would make the organism unable to withstand spaceflight. And they tried hard to find one, but there weren't any.
But to your knowledge, are there other scientists or even physicians who are looking into that data on those tests to see the limits of...
Oh, you mean now?
Yeah. Are you aware of them?
Oh, sure. Human limits are still being explored. And we're doing that today in terms of long-duration spaceflight, because that's one thing we still haven't proved. Can we stand weightlessness for the duration of a Mars flight and back? And I often thought in the early days that, you know, these people are being very undemocratic about the tests and the suspicions they had of us, because we're being considered guilty of not being able to withstand spaceflight, instead of being considered innocent of any failure like that and having to prove our guilt. We showed them.